Happy New Year, everybody. Maybe for, like half the country now, anyway. But anyway, welcome to a special presentation to start the year off the right way. I've compiled a list of my top 10 or my 10 favorite storm balls of all time, just storm balls. Might have a rotogrip list coming out here sometime, but and it's not an objective list of the best storm balls of all time because that would be predictable and boring. This is an incredibly biased list of my personal favorites going all the way back to the El Ninos, and there will be a couple honorable mentions as well. Obviously, there's going to be some greater classic balls left out either because I just didn't like them or never actually threw them. Oddly enough, the top 5 was easier than 6 through 10 because no matter how I added it up, I had to leave off some stuff that I really didn't want to or that really should be on the list. So we're going to start at the bottom with the honorable mentions. So we have a lot of them. The Trauma Recovery, the Hot Wire, the Special Agent, the Crux Pearl, the El Nino Gold, and the Marvel Pearl. The Trauma Recovery was ugly as hell, and it was really rolly. It didn't do anything special, but man, it hit so hard. All I had to do was, I had to hit the head pin somewhere, and they were just going down, so. Hot Wire, also ugly as hell, but AccuTread was the R2S of a couple decades ago. It was a baby Trauma ER, for those that remember the Trauma ER. Special Agent was all my favorite things. It was solid cover, low RG, high differential. I used it until it kind of died or tamed down quite a bit, and then I gave it to my wife, who it was then absolutely perfect for. So it was a great ball for both of us. Crux Pearl, one of the best smelling balls ever, and it kind of reminded me of my Trauma Recovery. It rolled really heavy, didn't hook a ton, but just kind of had to get it near the pocket. It just had that, the way it shaped up was just awesome. El Nino Gold needs a remake. I mean, it's still, for those of you who got to throw the El Nino Gold, it's one of the best looking and best smelling and just best reacting balls ever. The funny thing is that I never really had any big successes with it. I didn't have any super huge scores or anything super memorable. It's just a very memorable ball. And the last honorable mention is the Marvel Pearl. It's a great ball for all the reasons you can think of, but just not quite special enough for me to make it on the list. Now that we got onto the real list here, number 10, I've got the Eraser Boost. I used to Liz Johnson this thing right off the ditch, back on wood lanes with that odd surface texture that the Boost had. It absolutely flew on the back end, so I could just give it everything I had. I could just chuck it out there and watch it turn sideways. So I had some very memorable games and sets with it in youth leagues. No honor scores, but it was really one of my favorites back then. It also smelled like blueberry, and blue is my favorite color, so I really love this ball. At number 9, we've got the Prodigy. When it came out, it ended up being my first storm ball kind of coming back into the fold, so to speak. When the Reactor cover stock came out, I hated it. Like, I really hated it. Fired Up was a rollout machine. The Diablo was maybe one of the worst balls I've ever thrown, period. It didn't say ebonite on it, anyway. So I tried other stuff out for a while. Now, the first set out of the box with the Prodigy was 300, 800. It was also blue, and it also smelled like blueberry, so it was a stronger version for me of the Eraser Boost. It had some surface on it, but I absolutely loved that one too. And I think a lot of people will fondly remember the Prodigy. At number 8, I've got the Rocket. Rocket is actually a fairly recent ball, but this ball made me a lot of money. I don't know exactly what it was about it. It was a fairly hook set type reaction. I had a 300 on it. I almost won several tournaments, and almost as in like I got a lot of second places. It just for some reason matched up really well with me, and I honestly truly miss it, but the all-out show-off has kind of proven to be pretty close, so I'm happy about that, but really did enjoy the Rocket. Number 7 is the High Road. And what on earth could be so good up top that the High Road's all the way down here? Now, I did avoid the High Road like the plague forever because nobody would shut up about it. Everybody had one. It was just too popular. So eventually I broke down, and yeah, it's everything it was supposed to be. I've had 3 of them now, 1 lefty, and they've all been outstanding. Over the summer, I shot 300 with it in 1054 for a 4-game set that day. I averaged nearly 250 with it for several months until the Code Red came out. It's been retired, but it's a house shot killer to just end them all. It's still pretty dangerous on sports stuff too. It just does everything right. I mean, that's why it's been in production for 9 years and isn't going anywhere. Moving on to number 6, though. The rest of these were epic balls for me, plus we're getting into some serious nostalgia stuff, too. At number 6 is the El Nino 2000. It was my first 300 ball. When I really got into Storm, this is the last ball that I got to kind of complete my arsenal at the time. A month later, I got my first 300 and my high set at the time, a 749. It was in youth leagues back when 300 was a lot rarer thing, especially for a youth bowler. My legs are shaking so hard that I remember, I think I hit my leg in the backswing of one of them in the 10th, but I just wasn't stopping. I mean, it was my day, it was my game, the pins were just going to fall. The last ball was perfect. Went on to many more big games and big sets with it. No more honor scores, but that was the ball that kind of helped me make one of those really big steps early in my career. Top 5, and at number 5 is the IQ Tour Nano. It was the first ball I ordered after signing my first contract with Storm a few years ago, and it's still in the rack in the basement. I had two, my wife has one, I had one left-handed. It was an insanely good core and one of the best covers they've ever made. It was everything that was good about the tours before it and more. It was a great tournament ball, great house shot ball. There's not enough words to do it justice. Now, I didn't shoot any honor scores or tournaments with it, or win any tournaments with it, I don't think. But it was a big deal for me, especially on the left side of the lane while I was really getting my lefty game was developing. And my wife actually still uses hers a lot. It's really hard ball to put down. Number 4 is probably one that you don't expect. I've got the Depth Charge at number 4. This ball was probably my best scoring Storm ball of all time, period. Prothane LT Pearl Particle cover, super low RG. This for me was kind of like the OG Crux Pearl. It rolled super heavy, it didn't hook off the planet, but still to this day I think I matched up with this ball better than any ball ever. I remember specifically one game I bowled a long time ago where I struck. I left a drive by 9-pin in the second frame. I spared. I came back to the table, and I said, "Well, I guess I'll take 280." And then I proceeded to shoot 280. I mean, I'm not sure I've ever been more confident in the ball reaction. Of these last few at the top of the list, this is my favorite, but not quite the most special or memorable. Now in the top 3, at number 3, I've got the original Trauma. This was my first Storm ball ever and only my third hooking ball. When I got back into bowling after I graduated high school, I had a blue urethane Columbia Tie Beast, then I had the original Brunswick Purple Monster, and then the Trauma. It was wild for me for several reasons. I remember to this day how it smelled the first time I took it out of the box. I remember how tacky it was and wondering if that was even legal. And at a time, at the end of my first year back when I was averaging 175 and my high series was 630 something, my first set with it, my first league set with it was my first 700 the very last week of youth leagues that year. And then I averaged over 200 with it the entire summer, and that hooked me on Storm. So I bought an El Nino Exit, an El Nino Gold, and of course the El Nino 2000 I mentioned a few minutes ago. And then virtually every ball that they made after that for a long time. I went from nobody to one of the top youth bowlers in my area in just a few months. I made a lot of great friends, nearly all of whom I still have to this day. And while I won't give a bowling ball the credit for all of it, it was honestly a catalyst. Down to the last 2, at number 2 is another one that you may not expect. It's the Shock Trauma. The Shock Trauma, like the original, jumped my average even more, but that's when I started scoring big fairly often. Now with the Trauma, my average went up quite a bit, but I can't recall shooting anything big with it, probably mostly because the El Nino 2000 got a lot of time until the Shock Trauma came out, and then it got all the time. I ran this thing into the ground. After I got it, I don't think I used anything else for months. It was just Shock Trauma all day, every day, at least until we get to number 1, my favorite and most memorable ball of all time. Not just Storm ball, but ball, period. Number 1, I've got the X Factor. Not just because of how good it was, but also because it had kind of a memorable life. It smelled like Tootsie Rolls. It smelled like chocolate, but mine smelled like Tootsie Rolls. It looked great. It was a big release for them. It was also the only time that they used AccuTread Mystic Pearl, or at least the only time that they called it that. And I shot a metric ton of practice honor scores with it. We'd be bowling Cosmic. I'd be shooting 800s with people throwing stuff at me. I shot 800 with it, pot bowling my boss. at the shop. Funny enough, I never shot a sanctioned honor score with it, but just in general, I got such a big confidence boost from the time that I used it that it really helped progress my mental game more than anything. I got used to shooting big numbers with it, so I got a lot of my early career jitters out with this ball. People say practice scores don't mean anything, but I don't care who you are or what you're doing. Scores in practice may not count, but they can still be a big deal personally. And I got so good so fast that my mental game had really lagged behind at this point. And the big stuff with this ball constantly helped me get used to making big shots in league or in tournaments when I needed them. Then it died, and I gave it to my boss, who plugged it and re-drilled it and used it for a couple months. And then, who then gave it to another friend who plugged it and re-drilled it and used it for a couple months. And then I decided I missed it, so I got it back and I plugged it and re-drilled it and used it for another couple months. Ball didn't have any more labels at that point. I swear it had over 1,000 games on it. It didn't really even fit in the jig to drill by the time I got it back, but even dead, it was still just the sweetest rolling ball that I've ever thrown. And there are flashes of it in the Marvel Pearl, but the Marvel Pearl has a symmetric core, so it just doesn't quite. It's not quite the same thing. But that'll wrap up my top 10 storm balls of all time. I know that there are plenty of other good ones out there, some big heavy hitters that I didn't even mention. Hashtag IQ Couture Solid hashtag, but I want to get more than 9. But it is what it is. There's a lot of great new balls out too, and maybe some of those will end up in this list in the future. The Sonic might possibly be one of them, who knows. But anyway, once again, Happy New Year. Thanks for watching, and may the storm be with you.